So welcome back students, this is the 10th class of NCERT Indian Polity for Foundation Batch Adharshila conducted by Center for Ambition, and this is the 4th chapter that we are taking here now. Okay, this is the 4th chapter which is about executive. Okay, so far we have seen part 3 of the Indian Constitution which deals about the fundamental rights, part 4 for DPSPs and part 4A for fundamental duties. Okay, so we are very thorough with the part 3, part 4 and part 4A. Now as we proceed in the Indian Constitution, we see that part 5 of the Indian Constitution deals with the Union Government of India and part 6 deals with the State Government of India. So when we see part 5 and part 6 together, we see that the Union Government and the State Government comprises of the 3 organs of the government, which is legislature, executive and judiciary. Okay, so we talk about the legislative, executive and judiciary in both of the parts. So what I am doing, I am taking the executive from both of the parts. So here in this chapter, in this video, I will be discussing about the executive, which is from union government as well and from the state government as well, which means that I will be talking about the executive from the center and from the state. Okay, so you will get to know as we will proceed in this chapter, you will be able to get a clear picture of what I am saying. So when I talk about executive, okay, executive it is a body of people that are responsible for implementing laws that are made by the legislature. Okay, they are responsible for enacting laws, implementing laws that are made by the legislature. Okay, now when I talk about the organs of the government, what do I mean by the organs of the government? You see that when we see the government of India, okay, when we see the government of India, it has 3 main organs. Okay, what do I mean by the organ? It means that as I have a body and I do also have some organs which help me to function in my day-to-day life. So here in the government, similarly, we also have some organs of the government which also helps it to administer, function its roles in the society. Okay, so we have 3 organs of the government which are legislature, executive and judiciary. So in this chapter, we are talking about the executive part, which is an organ of the government. Okay, the legislature makes laws. It is responsible for making laws. The executive is responsible for implementing the laws. Okay, implementing or enacting the laws. Judiciary is responsible for interpreting the laws. Okay, so legislature makes the laws for the public, for the people. Okay, executive implements those laws, enact those laws which are made by the legislature, and judiciary interprets the laws. It tells you the true meaning of the laws that are made by the legislature. Okay, so executive is the organ of the government responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws made by the legislature that we have seen. It also frames rules and regulation for the effective implementation of the laws. So it can also set some rules and regulation which are effective for the implementation of the laws. Now we have seen the government organ of the government, which is legislature, executive and judiciary. As I have told you that legislature is responsible for making laws, executive implements the laws which are made by the legislature, and judiciary interprets the laws which are made by the legislature again. Okay. So what is the definition? It is the organ of the government which implements the laws, administers the country and carries day-to-day functions of the government. Okay, so I have summarized it here so that it all gets in your mind very precisely. Okay. What are the functions of executive? It implements the laws. I have said, as I have told you, it implements the policies that are adopted by the legislature. Whatever the policies, whatever the laws that are made by the legislature, that are made by the first organ of the government, it is implemented by the executive. Okay, it manages the administration of the country and it executes government decisions. Okay, so what is the composition of executive? What all comes in the body of the executive so that they can implement the law. So who all comes under the umbrella of the executive? So it differs from country to country. It is not same in the countries that we have. Okay, so we can see different types of system in different type of countries, and we can see different type of compositions, different types of powers given to the different executive all around the countries. Okay, so the executive not only include the president, prime minister and the ministers, it also talks about the administrative machinery, which is the civil servants. Okay, it also talks about the civil servants of the country as well, because as you see, the civil servants are the permanent bureaucrats, and the president, prime minister and ministers who are responsible for the political decision making, they are known as the political executive. I'll be telling you about them in detail. Okay, what are the political executive and the permanent executive, permanent bureaucrats. So when we see the civil servants of the India, they are into the day-to-day administration of the country. So executive includes the president, prime minister, ministers, as well as the civil servants and the bureaucracy. Okay, so types of executive, as I told you, we have two types of executive. One is political executive and second is permanent executive. The political are ministers and they are responsible for the decision making. The political decision making are responsible, the political executive are responsible for policy decisions, for public implementation of the public policies. Okay, overall responsibility of the government are in the hands of political executive. When we come on to the permanent executive, we see that civil servants are an example of it, and it handles the day-to-day administration of the country. It implements the government policies. Okay, so we have permanent bureaucrats, we have permanent executive, and we have political executives here. So we see that we have different styles of executive in different countries, and every country does not follow the same model of executive that we have here. Okay, for example, India we have parliamentary system. So like Britain also have parliamentary system, but their systems are very much different. Okay, for example, US has a presidential system and UK, which is England, has a parliamentary system. So their systems are different, and even though that India and Britain have same parliamentary systems, but then also the roles and the functions of the executives are different. Okay, so here the US has presidential systems, the UK has parliamentary system. Example of different roles, like the president of US has different powers from the king and queen of the England. So we see that we, even though we have king and queen of England and we have president for US, okay, both of them have the supreme power, but their roles are different. Okay, the president of US has different kind of roles, and when we see king and queen of England, they have different kind of roles. Okay, so there is difference in every position that we have in different countries. Okay, the prime minister of France and the president have different roles. For example, I have given you the list of examples that are mentioned in NCERT. Okay, for example, France has semi-presidential system. Okay, which means both president and prime minister exist. France has both president and prime minister. President appoints the prime minister, cannot dismiss the PM if the PM enjoys the confidence of the parliament. Okay, so president appoints the prime minister, but it cannot dismiss the PM because it enjoys the confidence of the parliament. If it enjoys the confidence of the parliament, then the president cannot dismiss the PM. In Japan, we see the parliamentary system is there. The emperor is there, which is the head of the state. The prime minister is the head of the government. In case of Italy, we have parliamentary system. The president is the head of the state. The prime minister is the head of the government. So in case of Russia, there is semi-presidential system, which means the president is the head of the state and the prime minister appointed by the president. In case of Germany, we have parliamentary system. The president is the ceremonial head of the state and chancellor is the head of the government. Okay. The presidential system, what happens in presidential system? What is the presidential system? In presidential system, we see that the president has all the executive power in his hands. Okay, and in this system, the president is the head of the state and head of the government as well. So it has very wide range of power. It has all the executive power. The office of president is very strong. It has a very strong hold in the system. Okay, so we see that US, Brazil and many Latin American countries have presidential system. In case of parliamentary system, we see that prime minister is the head of the government. President or a monarch could be the nominal head of the state. Okay, the real executive powers are exercised by the prime ministers and the council of ministers. Okay, so we have, what do we have? We have parliamentary system in which the prime minister has the real powers, which means that he is the head of the government. In case of the president or a monarch in a parliamentary system, it means that they are very nominal, they are ceremonial head of the state. Okay, the real executive powers are exercised by the prime ministers with the help of council of minister, with the aid and advice of council of ministers. So what are the examples of parliamentary system? The Germany, Italy, Japan, UK and Portugal. So semi-presidential system. What happens in some semi-presidential system? We have both president and prime minister, they both exist here. Okay, but the president has more power in comparison to the prime minister. Sometimes we see that the president and prime minister are from both the same parties, so the decision making is quite smooth in the system. But when we see they are from the different party, then there could be a lot of differences of opinion. Okay, so examples, we have France, Russia and Sri Lanka. Okay, in case of parliamentary system that we have in India, so why did we choose parliamentary system for India? Why? Because we have already experienced some elements of the parliamentary system in India. Okay, how? Because there were two acts that were Government of India Act 1919 and Government of India Act 1935. So these two acts were prevalent in India, they were implemented in India, and because of this we have already experienced the element of parliamentary system in India and we were familiar with the system. So we have implemented it in our country. Okay. What was the importance of parliamentary system? The executive is collectively responsible to the representatives of the people, which is parliament and legislature. So we see that in parliamentary system, the executive is collectively responsible to the representatives of the people. Okay, it also ensures the democratic accountability in the country. So it ensures that there is democratic accountability in the country, and for that reason we have chosen the parliamentary system in India. Okay, so the makers of the Indian Constitution wanted that the executive, the government, the constitution should be sensitive to the public expectations. Okay, the makers of the Indian Constitutions wanted that a government should be sensitive to the expectations of the public, okay, and they are responsible and accountable to the people. Okay, we did not want anything in extreme. We wanted that everything should be very much accountable, very much responsible, so that the people who were suffering from the freedom struggle, their rights were deprived, their rights were taken away. So they should be sensitive to the public expectations and they should be responsible, there should be accountability, which was missing in the rule of British era. It was missing when the India was under the rule of Britishers. So what they wanted that they should be sensitive, there should be sensitivity, and there should be responsibility and accountability when it comes to the people. So another option was there, the presidential form of government. Okay, we have seen that the president, for example, in the US, we have presidential form of government. So in US, the president has all the executive power. So we did not want that for our country, that the president should have this much of power. We wanted accountability, we wanted responsibility, we wanted sensitivity that the executive should have towards the people. So we did not go for the presidential form of the government. Okay, however, the constitution makers prefer the parliamentary system because executive remains accountable to the legislature. The government can be controlled by the elected representatives of the people. Okay, so government can control the elected representatives of the elected representatives. So that is why we have chosen the parliamentary system. Therefore, India adopted the parliamentary system at both union government and state government. So we have chosen ourselves, we have given ourselves the parliamentary system at the union government, at both the union government and the state government. According to the constitution, we have like when we talk about our constitution, when we talk about India, we see that we have both the post of president and the post of prime minister. But when we see the president, we see that the president is the nominal head of the state, which means it is formal, it is just a formal head of the state. Okay. And when I talk about the prime minister with the council of ministers have the real executive powers in India. Okay, when I talk about state, like president is the head of the state, I do not mean a single state, a specific state. I mean that that the entire country, because it is Indian polity, and in polity we sometimes refer the country as state. So we use the state in the broader version sometimes. So please don't be confused about in that. Okay, when I say state, though, it does not mean Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra. It means the entire country. Okay, the executive power under the constitution vests executive power in the president of India. The president of India has the executive power when it comes to the Indian constitution, but it is also said that they are advised, the executive power is advised by the council of ministers headed by the prime minister. Okay, so the president of India exercises its executive power with the advice of council of ministers, and which are headed by the prime minister. The elections of president, how does the president gets elected? So president is not directly elected by the people, she is indirectly elected. Okay, she is elected indirectly. The elections is held through the electoral college, and the election system is the proportional representation by single transferable vote. Okay, removal of the president can be removed through the impeachment. I'll discuss about the president in a very detailed manner, because there are a lot of roles and functions and executive power that is given to the president. So I'll have a detailed video for the president. In the next lecture, I'll tell you about the president in a detailed format. Okay. So when I talk about political executive in India, so I'll be taking the president, vice president, prime minister and council of ministers, okay, at the union level, and at the state level we have the governor, chief minister, council of ministers. Okay, the permanent executive that I have told you, the civil servants of India. Okay, so I'll be talking about all these in my next lecture. Okay, we'll see different parts of this part, chapter 4 of the executive that is given in the NCERT. So we have to make different videos for covering all of these. Okay, I'll be starting with the president from the next class. So I'll see you then. Thank you.